Hello everyone, this is Linda Timian, Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. This video will show you how to assemble my Scenic Coast card kit. It is my thank you for your order August 2026 card kit. It is based on a card designed by Terri Gaines, my upline director. Mine is not a fun fold, it is just a single fold, and then I did have enough designer series paper to make a matching envelope. And so let's get started. In your kit, you will have a Night of Navy card base. You will also have a piece of white to go inside. And then you'll have white on the front. It's been die cut with the Scenic Coast dies. I used the sailboat on the front piece. I also used the net and the seashells and the seagulls from this die set. When I made the front white piece, I cut it first with the sailboat, and I centered it along the top and two sides, and then I embossed it with the Soft Waves embossing folder. And you can see that once you emboss that, it makes the sailboat rippled also. And so what I did is I cut another sailboat out of the scrap that came out of that white piece, and I cut another flat sailboat, and we're just going to glue that right on top. Again, this is an idea from Terri Gaines, my upline director. You will also have in your kit a sentiment white piece and a mat in the Night of Navy. I used the Sweet Words and Labels dies for that. And then for the sentiment, I'm using the Sunset Coast stamp set, and I'm going to use Happy Retirement and The Adventure Continues on the inside. And so you'll also have in your kit the piece of net die cut in crumb cake and 3 seagulls, very tiny and delicate. You'll also have 3 seashells, and I cut those out of the shimmer vellum, sunset shimmer vellum that comes with this suite. I also used adhesive sheet on the back of all of those small delicate pieces. So you put the adhesive sheet on the back and then die cut the pieces. Now the seashells I cut out of the pink shimmer vellum. The shimmer vellum comes in white and blue and pink, and I cut out of the pink. But you'll see there's different colors. I used a crumb cake light stamp and blend to color the starfish, and then the light calypso coral to color the other seashell. Now the designer series paper, I cut from the Sunset Scenic Coast designer series paper set. Yours may be a little different from what you see here, and you'll see that the piece that I cut, I first cut off a piece for the envelope flap, and then I cut a piece for behind the sailboat, but I centered it or moved it, adjusted it so that it would line up with the sun, and the sunset would be in the background. And so that was kind of individual to each different design. So if you're recreating this, keep that in mind. For adhesive, I'm using liquid glue. I always like to have tweezers on hand. I'll be using a tape runner and also some dimensionals. Okay, and let's clear out some space. I think the first thing we'll do is adhere the white to the designer series paper. You can see that that fits. You might want to watch on the front and make sure you get that centered where you like it. What we're going to do is put some liquid glue around the edge and on the sailboat. And then I'm also going to put some liquid glue on the 4 corners just to hold those down nice. And what I want is for it to be nice and secure. And with the liquid glue, less is better. Just a thin bead or dots, a thin line or dots away from the edge. Don't get too close or it's going to ooze out beyond the cut edges of the white. So, and I'm just putting a few dots on the sailboat and a bit in the water, just very thin lines. And then I'm going to, since I already looked at how that fits, I should be able to just flip that over and adhere that together. Press that down, give it a second to adhere. And that kind of makes those waves in the boat and everything kind of nice and solid there. And so remember the sailboat is rippled. And so we're going to glue the flat sailboat directly on top of it. And again, I'm going to use just very sparingly a little bit of glue on the sails and the hull of the boat. And I'm going to take it with my tweezers. I like using tweezers when I'm positioning something. And then we'll get that lined up exactly on top, and then you have a nice flat sailboat for the decorative image. Okay, that's good. Give it a second to set. And then we're going to adhere this to the card front. You should be able to just use, I like using liquid glue again on anything that's embossed, and I do like putting it all the way around the edge because I feel that holds all the embossing down flat to the card base. When it's embossed, if you just do the corners or just a few spots of glue, it may buckle a little bit away from the card base. And so I do usually put a line of glue around the edge when I've embossed something. And so liquid glue also gives you a second to make sure you have that centered. You can shift it a little bit if you need to. Okay, so the sentiment, I'm going to show you how you can stamp that later. You can decide later what you want to stamp, but we're going to put the mat on with dimensionals, and I'll just put 3 dimensionals on there. Take the wax paper off the back, and then I'm just going to place that where I think it looks centered, left and right, and then in that bottom portion, and that'll be set. And so you can decide later what you want to stamp for a sentiment. You might want to save it for happy birthday or retirement or anniversary, anything like that. So next we're going to put these seagulls on, and those are, remember, they have adhesive sheet. So you peel off the wax paper off the back. Again, I like using tweezers. These are tiny little delicate things, and so peel off the paper, and I use the tweezers to kind of place them. Put another one there, and then we've got one more small one. And if you have trouble getting the wax paper off, sometimes a pin will work too. And then we've got the last one there. And there we go. So now we've got the birds on it. Okay, so next I think we'll do the stamping. We'll stamp the sentiment on the white piece that goes on the inside. And then I'll also stamp the white sentiment layer. And so you can see how that's adhered after the fact once you decide what you want. Okay, so I'll get out my blocks and my sentiment stamps. I'll get that. I'm going to use Happy Retirement, get that lined up on one of the blocks. And then the adventure continues on the other one. And I'm going to be using Night of Navy to ink that up on both of them. And then I think it'll work a little better if I just put the the sentiment on something dark so you can kind of see a little better rather than white on white. And there we go. And then I'll also do The Adventure Continues, ink that up, center it amongst the upper portion, and you can do whatever you wish. And so there, we have that. Now you can see I made a mistake, and I just turned it over and stamped it better on one side. And then use tape runner and just adhere it to the mat. And that works pretty slick if you don't know exactly what kind of card you want to make at first. So I'm going to use tape runner and just put a little bit on the corners and center that inside the card. Equal spacing, top, bottom, and sides. And then I'm going to put the die cuts on, the net and the seashells on the inside of the card. And all of those have self-adhesive sheets on the back of them. So pull the wax paper off the back. And I'm just going to put this in the corner. Take the starfish, peel that off, and I kind of like using tweezers again for placement. And right there we go. And then we've got pink seashell. And if you have trouble getting the wax paper, again, you can try a pin. But the larger pieces, sometimes it's easier to get that wax paper off. And then we've got the coral seashell. And just place that one there. So that decorates the inside of the card, and I think that's kind of cute. And that is the Scenic Coast card kit. Then we have the last thing is to decorate the flap of the envelope. And so I'm just going to use some tape runner along the edge of the flap all the way around. And I just put, you don't have to do it solid, I just put pieces there, but you just want to make sure that it's going to keep all the edges down pretty good. And a little bit more. There we go. And then I think it's easiest if you can put that on something dark background, and then you can see that upper edge. Line that up. You'll have about 1/8 of an inch or better extra on each end, but I just like to line that up flush with the top, get that adhered good, and then you just take a scissors and trim it all the way around. So I like decorating the flap of the envelope when I have enough designer series paper to do that, and if it's not, this one is a directional paper, but the direction worked well with the flap of the envelope. The waves, are horizontal, and that worked for the flap of the envelope. You don't want to put a vertical design horizontally on envelope flap. That doesn't look right, but this looks really good. And so I like doing that. It makes a nice set, very pretty. And so thank you for watching. This is my August 2026 Thank You for Your Order card kit.